Kalen's breath fogged the viewport, a brief ghost in the crushing silence of the stalwart. Outside, the universe was a wound in reality, a swirling maelstrom of light and matter being inexorably pulled into the black hole's event horizon. The ship groaned, a sound that vibrated up through the soles of his boots, a reminder of the tidal forces that would one day tear them apart. He was here for the artifact, the Thonic Seed, a rumored piece of alien tech that could rewrite the laws of physics on a planetary scale. The consortium wanted it. The universe, it seemed, wanted something else. A low thrum vibrated through the hull, not the ship's engines, but something else. Something organic. The fungal network had breached the outer hull, a creeping gray blight that consumed metal and reconstituted it into pulsating, chitinous flesh. It was aggressive, intelligent, and utterly alien. Kalen checked his suit's integrity. 98%. He'd been breathing its spores for 12 hours. A dull ache was beginning to bloom in his joints. The fungal network had a name for its kind, the mycelium, and Kalen was about to become its newest nutrient. The airlock door hissed open, releasing a cloud of gray spores that glittered in the emergency lighting. Kalen raised his helmet, the internal filters whirring to life as he stepped into the breached cargo bay. The metal deck plates were gone, replaced by a spongy, black substrate that pulsed with a sickly, internal light. Thick, cable-like mycelium snaked across the walls and ceiling, some as thick as his arm, others as fine as hair. They pulsed in unison, a slow, rhythmic beat that was almost hypnotic. This was the mycelium's nervous system. Kalen's HUD identified it as a Class 7 infestation. He raised his pulse rifle, the weapon feeling heavy and alien in his gloved hands. The first tendril lashed out, a blur of motion that struck the rifle barrel with a wet thwack. The metal didn't bend. It simply dissolved, turning to a rust-colored dust that fell away into the black floor. Kalen stared at the stump of his rifle. The pain in his joints flared, a sharp, biting sensation that made him grit his teeth. He wasn't just fighting an infestation. He was fighting a system that was actively rewriting his biology, one spore at a time. The fungal network had breached the primary science lab. Kalen moved through the ruined corridors, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The ache in his bones was now a constant companion, a low thrum of agony that resonated with the pulse of the mycelium itself. He saw it then, the Thonic Seed. It was suspended in a stasis field at the center of the lab, a perfect sphere of crystalline material that seemed to drink the light around it. It was beautiful and terrifying. As he approached, the floor beneath him softened. Black tendrils erupted, wrapping around his ankles, his legs, pulling him down. He cried out, a raw sound of pain and fury, and began to saw at the thick mycelium with his combat knife. The blade bit into the flesh-like substance, but it regenerated almost instantly, the severed pieces writhing on the floor before dissolving into more of that rust-colored dust. The pull was immense, a gravitational force that had nothing to do with the black hole outside. He felt his suit's integrity drop to 90%. The pain was a fire now, consuming him from the inside out. He had to reach the seed. Kalen tore himself free of the floor's grasp, leaving a chunk of his environmental suit behind. The vacuum of space would have killed him instantly, but the mycelium had sealed the breach with a rapid growing membrane. He was bleeding from a dozen small cuts, the black ichor of the fungus mingling with his own blood on the spongy floor. He crawled the last few meters to the stasis field, his hands raw and bleeding. The Thonic Seed pulsed with a soft, violet light, a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. He slammed his fist against the energy field. It rippled but held firm. He slammed it again, and again, each impact sending jolts of pain up his arm. The mycelium was closing in. The walls were breathing now, the cable-like tendrils converging on him from all directions. He could feel their collective consciousness, a cold, ancient intelligence that saw him not as a threat, but as a resource to be processed. He was becoming part of the network, his individuality dissolving into the hive mind. He had to break free. He had to take the seed. The stasis field flickered. Kalen had been hammering at it for what felt like an eternity, his knuckles shattered, his arm a mangled ruin of bone and sinew. The mycelium had adapted. It was no longer trying to pull him down. It was trying to absorb him whole. Tendrils coated his back, his arms, his legs, a second skin of living tissue that fed on his pain. He could feel his thoughts slowing, his memories fading, replaced by a single, overwhelming imperative: serve the network. He looked at his hands, at the ruined flesh and the black veins that were now spreading up his arms. He was losing himself. With a final, desperate roar, he drove his shattered fist into the stasis field one last time. This time, it shattered. The energy dissipated in a shower of violet sparks. Kalen fell forward, catching himself on his elbows, and reached out for the seed. His fingers closed around its cool, smooth surface. The moment he touched it, a jolt of pure energy shot through him, not painful, but clarifying. The agony receded, replaced by a cold, focused clarity. The mycelium recoiled, a psychic shriek echoing in his mind. It had not expected this. The moment Kalen grasped the thonic seed, the universe seemed to hold its breath. The oppressive, pulsing rhythm of the mycelium faltered. The gray blight on the walls and floor shuddered, as if in shock. Kalen felt a new power thrumming within him, a counterpoint to the fungal network's song. It was the seed's influence, a resonant frequency that was anathema to the mycelium. He pushed himself to his feet, the black ichor of the fungus peeling away from his skin like a diseased glove. He was still in agony, his body a canvas of fresh and old wounds, but the pain was his now. It was no longer being fed to the hive. He raised the seed, and a wave of violet energy pulsed from it. The tendrils that had been wrapping around his legs withered and turned to dust. The black substrate of the floor cracked and split, revealing the cold, dead metal beneath. The mycelium was being purged, but it was fighting back. A tendril as thick as a tree trunk lashed out from the ceiling, aiming to crush him and the seed in a single blow. Kalen didn't dodge. He stood his ground, the thonic seed held before him like a shield. The colossal tendril struck, but it didn't crush him. Instead, it impacted the seed's energy field. A deafening shriek echoed through the ship, a sound that was both physical and psychic. The tendril didn't just break. It unraveled, its chitinous structure dissolving into a cloud of gray ash that was immediately sucked away by the ship's ventilation system. The mycelium was in full retreat now, not physically, but psychically. Kalen could feel its collective consciousness recoiling, a wave of fear and loathing washing over him. He was no longer just food. He was a poison. The fungal network was abandoning the ship, receding back into the hull plating, leaving behind only the scent of ozone and decay. The ship groaned again, a sound of relief. Kalen looked at the seed in his hand. It pulsed with a soft, steady light. The artifact wasn't just a weapon. It was a key to understanding the universe, and to understanding the pain that had forged him into what he was now. The stalwart was silent. The mycelium was gone, purged by the power of the thonic seed. Kalen stood in the ruined cargo bay, the violet light of the seed illuminating the devastation around him. The ship was still being torn apart by the black hole's gravity, but the immediate threat was neutralized. He was alone. He had won, but the victory was hollow. His body was a ruin. Every breath was a fire, every step a torment. He had endured the pain, had used it as a weapon, but it had left its mark. He looked at the seed, then at the viewport, at the swirling vortex of the black hole. He knew what he had to do. The consortium would never understand. They would see the seed as a tool of conquest. He saw it as a warning. He activated the ship's self-destruct sequence, a low, mournful wail beginning to sound through the corridors. He walked to the airlock, the seed clutched in his hand. As the countdown reached 0, he ejected himself into the void, holding the seed out towards the event horizon. For a moment, he was a silhouette against the impossible light, a man defined by his pain, offering a final, defiant gift to the universe that had tried to break him. Then he was gone, swallowed by the gravity and the light, his final act one of creation, not destruction.